I want to stress, we are on the brink of a golden age. We truly are. And you see it in countless technological fields.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us here for a special interview with Rod Martin, founder and CEO of Martin Capital. Today, we'll be discussing his latest venture, Project Sentinel, which promises to revolutionize the life insurance industry through transformative technology. Mr. Martin is a tech entrepreneur, investor, and is described as a philosopher capitalist, and is well known for being part of the PayPal Mafia. And this interview is brought to you by us at KCC Capital Partners. How are you doing today, Mr. Martin?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Kind of kicking off here. So you've played a pivotal role in major tech ventures in the past. What inspired you to shift focus to the mid-market life insurance sector for your next big project?
Well, it's not really a shift. We cut our teeth on payments, which is financial services, just like insurance. And we found an industry that was ripe for disruption and absolutely in need of a technological solution. I mean, just to give you an example, people were trying to buy and sell on eBay, and they didn't have any way to guarantee that if they shipped a product, they'd even get paid, or if they sent a check, that they'd ever see the product. PayPal solved that problem. For a while, we were, about 60% of our payment volume was actually on eBay, which is one of the reasons they acquired us. But, it's grown to something dramatically more. And, we have a lot of experience both with innovating in finance. That was a very, very technologically backward area when we approached it, but also in what comes after that. So, for instance, I was with Peter Thiel for a while after PayPal before we started this. And we've looked all along the way for things that were capable of a solution through technology and through good management that was above and beyond what the customer is currently experiencing. Insurance is that today. Insurance is absolutely stuck in the 90s. It is sort of the Netscape of financial services. It's terrible. And there are a few standouts like Geico that are actually kind of amazing. But in general, this is an area that needs a lot of help. And to give you just one example, I know of a number of life insurance companies that are providing the widow the death benefit she's owed 4 to 6 months after her husband dies. I mean, how would you pay your bills? How would you make the mortgage? How would you keep Johnny in school or braces? I mean, it's just absurd. And all of this can be solved. All of this is not only solvable in terms of existing problems, but also efficiencies that no one has considered yet, or at least inadequately considered, things we can do with artificial intelligence in the underwriting process, in actual selling, in countless things. The net result we want to bring about is a collapsing of the costs such that we can actually increase margins while cutting prices.
Interesting. So, Mr. Martin, it kind of sounds like in reality, this was right in your wheelhouse. And you mentioned two things in there that really indicate that to me. First was the technological backwardness of this industry, and two, it being ripe for disruption. So this is something you are very familiar with doing in reality, is finding problems like this, I imagine, especially with your experience. So, and it sounds like the vision was pretty clear from early on. And I imagine assembling the right team was crucial. And I'm sure you had a great set of candidates to pick from that you've worked with. But so how did you assemble your team? And what were the unique strengths that they bring to the venture?
Well, that's exactly right. It's always about the team. Nobody knows everything. I mean, Peter Thiel is a brilliant, brilliant entrepreneur and financial mind, not to mention lots of other things. But I mean, he doesn't code. I mean, he wasn't sitting around coding the PayPal software. That's just silly. Max Levchin was brilliant at that, but I don't know if he would be, an Elon Musk level CEO today, but at the time, Peter was better suited for that role. David Sachs was incredible as a chief operating officer. So my take on this has always been build great teams and get out of their way. Give them the leadership that a CEO or executive chairman requires, but empower them to do what they're best at doing. So we have an incredible team, including the guy who was head of marketing at PayPal for users 0 through 50 million. We've got people with deep insurance operational experience, including a former chief risk officer of USAA, who was actually named top risk officer in the entire United States one year, not long ago. We even have the guy who used to be head of the Transnational Threats Division at U.S. Special Operations Command. I mean, he is amazing. He needs somebody to walk beside him with a second uniform just to, handle all the medals. It's ridiculous. And, he was 24 years in the service. And a lot of what they were doing was disrupting terrorist finance networks. Well, it turns out that has tremendous application to insurance fraud. And if you can reduce your fraud rate, it is transformative. At PayPal, we got our fraud rate down to just 1/3 of Visa and MasterCards in our first year. That really contributes to the bottom line. The other thing that just really contributes to the bottom line is reducing cost of customer acquisition. The industry average when we started PayPal was about $630. We got it down to $20. And oh my goodness, that permits explosive growth compared to something else. Now, you're probably familiar with Peter's book, 0 to 1, which is a fantastic read. Everybody should pick it up. It's based on lectures on entrepreneurship he did at Stanford Business School. And 0 to 1 primarily makes the point that it's really, really hard to go from nothing to something. It's easier to iterate from 1 to some X. That's kind of our approach here. PayPal was especially hard because we had 0 customers. This is a virgin market. Insurance doesn't have to be that way. So we're looking to acquire companies that are already good, already profitable, perhaps a bit undervalued, and make them radically better. And our technology gets rolled out on an existing user base, customers, and we actually have a chance to make money while we're improving the system.
Yeah, and as you said, that this is not a virgin market, so there's a lot of opportunity there. And I imagine then, since this market's existed for a while, was there like a light bulb moment that made you decide to step into this, or was this an idea that kind of evolved more gradually over time?
Well, it kind of came up toward the end of the pandemic because all of a sudden we had this really changed interest rate environment, which significantly impacts insurers in a variety of ways. And all of a sudden, a lot of really great companies started being undervalued. I read an article around that time in the Wall Street Journal, and then shortly after, another one in Barron's, the gist of which were that a lot of these companies are going for book value. So effectively, when you consider how much surplus and reserve they have to hold, you're talking about buying assets under management for pennies on the dollar. And that's before you get to the operating company. So there are just so many ways that we can build a financial powerhouse that really is world changing. And I stress once again, Geico, I know they're limited to property and casualty, but what Warren Buffett has done with that company is just extraordinary. That was just a tiny little thing when he acquired it. And it has become the biggest in its field and certainly spends the most on advertising, which does not dent its profitability. They are in a position to do incredible things that change the industry precisely because they employed technology effectively, quickly. And most of the industry has not and isn't going to, but we can make it happen.
Wonderful. Well, Rod Martin, thank you so much for joining us here today. We appreciate your time and insight. And everyone watching, don't be afraid to reach out to KCC Capital Partners for more information. Rod, is there anything else you want to add before we go?
I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I want to stress, we are on the brink of a golden age. We truly are. And you see it in countless technological fields. You see You see technologies like Elon's Starship that are just transformative. Go over to his Tesla, and all of a sudden you have these Optimus robots that change everything. You also have huge demographic shifts in the world. And we are very, very mindful of what the landscape looks like 10, 20, 30 years out. We bring an edge there, and we've demonstrated it at PayPal and our other companies that a lot of incumbent players can't match, and we're going to make people a ton of money.
Sounds like an amazing time, Mr. Martin. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for watching.